Hey guys, it's Mike from We Are the Batman here. Just want to let you know we have a new website you guys can go to. Just go to podpage.com/We Are the Batman. That's podpage.com/We Are the Batman. You can get all of our episodes there, get a little more information about us, and most importantly, you can leave us reviews and you can leave us comments and messages, send us questions and episode ideas, and you can even leave us voicemails. All these great tools are on the website. Head over to podpage.com/We Are the Batman. We always love to hear from you guys. Head on over there now and check it out. Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are the Batman. I'm Mike.
And this is Matthew.
All right, the day's finally here. Gun Watch 0 hour has come upon us. At 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. wherever the hell Matt is. We got the James Gunn official announcement on Twitter via a concise, well-made video, 6-minute video on Twitter, breaking down what we know, what he's able to tell us now. Now he said, what we're gonna do is we're going to play the video out for you guys, for those who may have not heard the video or just waiting for us to recap it or whatever the case may be. And then we'll just pause it at certain points and just kind of touch on what he's talked about. That way you get everything in his words. We're not paraphrasing. We're not misrepresenting. We're not misremembering. And we can just kind of comment on it as it goes. But we have already watched this once before prior to recording this. And I just, overall, I can say this definitely subverted any expectations I had.
I don't know what subverted means, but it did. There were a lot of things that came out of left field for me, and some things that I'm going to dare say I was hoping they wouldn't announce that they did. But I think we all know, no matter what, there's going to be a Batman.
Yeah, and I think we know that there's a Batman coming. Spoilers. We'll get to it when it comes to it. So but yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and play, and we're just gonna address the points as they come up. I'll time code this after the fact when we're editing this, so that way you guys can maybe jump to the specific things you want to hear us talk about later on. And other than that, just this is James Gunn himself on Twitter speaking about what they can officially announce as of this moment with the upcoming DC slate. So I'll put up the video here so Matt can see it. You guys can't see any of this because this is an audio only show, but now we got this thing figured out. So let's play this out and see what we got.
Hey everybody, I'm James Gunn. I'm the co-CEO of DC Studios. So as many of you know, DC has been disconnected in film and television for a long time. And it's one of, our jobs, mine and Peter's, is to come in and make sure the DCU is connected in film, television, gaming, and animation.
I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause a lot because there's a lot to break down. Like there's a lot of information and things to talk about in this video. So he is right. I mean, it has been disconnected as shit for the last 100 years. I remember specifically when Ezra Miller was announced as the Flash, was like the same week that like season 1 or 2 of the Flash TV show like broke every television ratings record known to mankind. And I remember Stephen Amell doing an interview saying like he was mad. He's like, way to rain on Grant Gustin's parade, DC. Like, congrats, you have the biggest show in the world. You're not our Flash in the movies. Like, cool, thanks. But I love his choice of words of film, TV, video games, and animation. Like we're pulling a Star Wars. We're unifying everything.
Yeah, I'm not a video game guy, so as long as nothing is something I have to do in order to understand other things, whatever. But it does, I think I said it on the phone with you, even though maybe jumping the gun, is the fact that he's announcing this, and we got word a couple weeks ago that both Doom Patrol and Titans have both been canceled. I don't think it's coincidence.
No, I don't think so either. And we're going to get into that more as more things come up. But I think just again, right away, he's addressing all the important stuff right off the bat. And as far as the video games affecting stuff, I think it's going to be kind of a Star Wars situation where it's like the Star Wars video games like their stories from here on out are considered like canon to everything in Star Wars, but they're also self-contained enough that like they don't affect what's happening in like The Mandalorian or the movies. And if they do incorporate it, there's enough backstory given to where you're not confused.
Yeah.
So,
and,
yeah. So
they're not going to do it if they're not going to do it. So sure.
Right. So anyway, so let's keep going because we're 20 seconds into a 6-minute video.
That the characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works within one story. And if something is outside of that, like Matt Reeves' Batman or Todd Phillips' Joker or Teen Titans Go, that it is clearly labeled as DC Elseworlds, outside of the mainstream DCU continuity.
So that's another really important piece of information. We have speculated on that numerous times, and he's all but come out and said already, like, this stuff's going to be its own thing. We're calling it DC Elseworlds, which is smart because that's already a known terminology in DC lore. And also it's like, you know, Joker made like $1 billion and was an Oscar contender. The Batman has been wildly and critically successful. Stuff like Teen Titans Go or DC's Harley Quinn are massively popular. Why would you get rid of these things just because they don't fall into your continuity? Cool. Label them DC Elseworlds. Go live on your own. Now I'm going to focus on this stuff over here.
And if you ever told me that James Gunn was going to use, by example, Matt Reeves as the Batman and Teen Titans Go in a single sentence.
And Todd Phillips' Joker. Like, good Lord.
And the preschool Teen Titans Go, you know. During Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight and Bat Wheels are going to be elsewhere.
like one of the most successful rated R movies ever made about a psychopath killer clown, and Teen Titans Go, which have an entire episode dedicated to Cyborg getting his groove on with a particular song, like that helps him fight evil. Sure. But it is an important distinction to make. Like going forward, if it's not labeled DCU specifically, it is not part of the story, because no more of this what's canon and what's not. It's like, we're gonna label it. We're gonna get the little label maker out and we're gonna slap a sticker on it, and now you know what's what.
Perfect.
I think very smart.
Yeah. Yes. And it also
Peter and I have gotten
and it also gives you the back door of, hey, we're gonna do a Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot. It's Elseworld, and it doesn't matter, or a special.
Yeah. We could this opens the door to, here's an idea for a story we think would be neat for Henry Cavill to play Superman again.
Yeah. Here's Werewolf by Night, but you know,
so it was so
like good. DC. I don't know what it would be. You know, here's Superman by Night.
Sure. All right, let's see what's next here.
I'm pretty lucky in terms of the 4 projects that are coming out over the next year. First, we have Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Shazam has always been off kind of in his own part of the DCU, so he connects very well. That moves directly into The Flash, a fantastic movie that I really love that resets the entire DC universe. Then to move it.
So before we go further, we'll get these 2 out of the way. I think they're getting these 2 out of the way at the top on purpose. So we kind of called that, like, if they do something with the Flash, it's going to be the reset button. That's been talked about since like 2017. That's a smart way to go about, like, we want to do this reset. What's a way to do it that doesn't involve like a whole bunch, too much press and explanation? Screw it. The Flash resets everything. We're done. Move on. Cool. Because there's a lot you can do with that as far as explaining the recasting. And, you know, all early reports have come out that, and I think he says as much in the next minute or so here, that like the early reports of the Flash is spectacular, like as a movie, that it's an absolutely fantastic movie, which thoughts on Ezra Miller aside, it could very well be. And the same could be said about Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Like, all the current controversy surrounding Zachary Levi, wherever you fall on that side, on either side of that coin, it could still be a great movie. And Shazam has been disconnected enough from things at large that you can still incorporate it in some way into whatever they have going planned, especially if the Flash is about to reset everything.
Yeah.
And give you that opening.
Yeah. You said it all. I don't need to add it to it. Let's
okay.
go.
Yeah, cool.
Into Blue Beetle, a fantastic film about a kid who's a marvelous part of the DCU, and then into Aquaman 2, which leads directly into our next few projects, which
Okay, so before we go into those next few projects, Blue Beetle's still coming. We know that's coming this summer, actually, I think is the release date. We don't know anything about it, so it could very easily be one of those things you can incorporate into a new continuity easily if it doesn't have anything to do with anything else. It's a character that people have really been clamoring for, particularly ever since he showed up in Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and you also have, like, just because Flash reboots this universe, it doesn't mean it recasts everything, because
right.
I'm getting a little ahead on this. Is like, he's announcing all these projects. He says absolutely nothing about casting, recasting, new casting, any kind of casting. So we don't know who's playing, who's doing what. So it could be Aquaman. Momoa is still Aquaman for whatever. So anyway, go ahead. Okay.
Well, no, there was an example of that in the CW. It's not a great example, but it's an example when they did their version of Flashpoint, which was terrible, but it just changed little things here and there, like someone had a son instead of a daughter, or this, so it was little things that it changed. So yeah, you can change who you need to change if you need to change them. If you're cool with what you got, cool. It's just only little things have been reset, and we just continue on with this continuity as it is. So yeah, Momoa can totally stay as Aquaman now, which is basically what he said on Twitter the other day, or Instagram or whatever. And said, like, I'm not going anywhere. And it's like, well, yeah, they probably were like, no, why would we want to get rid of Jason Momoa? He's awesome. He's not the problem here, as opposed to like an Ezra Miller, where it's like, hey, we're going to have you do a reset in your movie, and then you're going to be recast at the end of the movie. Like, it's a lot of things you can do with that.
And let's not forget, if memory serves, his movie's the only one that's broken $1 billion.
That's true. Aquaman was the only one to do it. Wonder Woman got close, but Aquaman was the only one to do it. Thoughts on that movie aside, I think it's fine. I don't think it's awful. It could be better, it could be worse, but
it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what WB executives think about money, and they like it. And $1 billion is good money.
It's what kept M. Night Shyamalan in business, but that's another conversation. But they're saying, like, these movies are still coming out this year, because they're all coming out this year. Flash is going to basically be our reset. Then we go into Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and that's going to be our transition into, here's the world of the DCU as we know it now going forward, which is
the
now
Gunverse.
The Gunverse. TM. Let's hear what he has to say about what I think they're calling Chapter 1 of the DCU.
Which I'm going to tell you about now. So Peter and I, along with a group of very talented writers, have started to map out an 8 to 10 year plan of what DC Studios will be in film, television, and gaming. This first chapter is called Gods and Monsters. Now, what I'm about to tell you, is a part of the first chapter. It's not the entire first chapter.
So that's an important distinction to make. This is not everything. This is just what's on paper as of now. This is what they have, like, been able to put all the nails in the coffin for. There's other stuff they have plans for, but there's still some little kinks to work out here and there, more details to iron out. This is what they're like, this is what we've got to work with right now.
This is what we're telling you guys about, so you'll shut them up and let us work.
Leave me alone on Twitter. Here's what we got going on. Guys, please stop tweeting James Gunn. I love having stuff to talk about. Don't get me wrong. The man's got a lot of work to do. And considering what we're going to talk about in this episode, like, he's got a lot to work on. But 8 to 10 years they've planned out. Like, it's a long time.
Let him breathe.
Yeah. And again, I liked, he said film, TV, and gaming. Like, they're really gonna, like, let this world expand and breathe. I want to know who these writers are they're working with.
I'm sure we'll find out over the next couple weeks.
I'm sure we will. I'm really curious to see, and we're going to hear some names later on in this video, but But so let's get into this first project, because I'm looking at an image on screen right now that is just something else. So
Roll it.
The first project is Creature Commandos. Creature Commandos is an animated series. I've written all the episodes. Something we're going to do that's a little bit different at DC is we're going to have characters move into animation, out of animation, usually having the same actor play their voice as who plays them in live action.
So I know nothing about Creature Commandos at
Never
all.
heard of them. Never heard of them.
Someone
Two
said
of
to me
those
earlier,
characters look vaguely familiar.
yeah. So one of them that we're looking at here on the far right, that's the Weasel, right? From the Suicide Squad.
Well,
That's got to be the Batman. So, which that was all CG, and that was Sean Gunn doing the mocap. So cool. Dude with the helmet here, though, that kind of looks like Robot Man, which is Brendan Fraser's character from Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I was going to Atomic Skull, who, if you can't pick it out from that lineup, I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
I think that's Atomic Skull.
the flaming skeleton.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I don't know who this guy is, if that's like a version of Solomon Grundy I'm not familiar with.
Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, only by assumption of the view, not that I would know.
That's true. And then I don't know. I skipped a little too far ahead here. I don't know who these people are on the left here.
That's either Doc Savage, in my opinion, or it's Flag, I imagine. But I'm not. I have no clue, to be honest with you.
And this chick here just looks like the female version of Abe Sapien from Hellboy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But what I like about this is that you're not just getting Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, The Flash.
Yeah.
He's out the gate going far left, and given what he did with Peacemaker, I imagine this is going to be great.
Well, if there's one thing James Gunn knows how to do, it's work with really weird, obscure teams of characters that nobody's ever heard of.
Yes.
I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad is right there. But also I love that this is TV animation, but he said that like they're talking the same actors voicing them as playing them live action. We saw that a little bit with Marvel's What If series on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
With the ones that, were available. So that to me is even more intriguing, because again, like that opens the door for like if that is Robot Man and you bring in Brendan Fraser again, because why wouldn't you? Because Brendan Fraser is having a career resurgence right now, and I'm here for it. But also it does clear up that whole like, oh, this person's good, but I like the voice actor better, or the voice actor's fine, but I like the movie. It's the same person.
Yeah, I think it's a big action.
The next project up is Waller. This is a story of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. Viola Davis is going to team up with members of Team Peacemaker, and this is a story that's been created by Crystal Henry, who did Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol. It is a fantastic story that's out of this world, and I can't wait for people to see it.
So, of all the things wrong with Suicide Squad, Viola Davis was not one of them. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller's pretty good casting. But we haven't done a whole lot with her over the course of 2 Suicide Squad movies and Black Adam, other than just she's there and she's a bitch. So like, let's explore more of that. But also we're still playing with characters from Peacemaker, which is a show that he made, which is an excellent show. And we're bringing in some of the writers behind Watchmen and Doom Patrol, which were excellent, well-received TV series. What do you think?
Well, and I don't care about the show because I don't care about the character. But what I do care about is that he's keeping the casting, which goes to what we kind of mentioned a second ago, is that he's probably going to pick and choose who he keeps and who he doesn't in this soft reboot.
Yeah, this is a show I'll probably be more interested in when I see a trailer.
Yeah, if Vigilante's in it, who is my spirit animal, I'm all in.
He's so good. I'm twisting my face so you can't recognize me later on.
Yeah.
Such a good moment. All right, let's see what's next.
Okay. Next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy. This is being written by me. I'm in the middle of it. I'm having a great time doing it. And Superman will be released into theaters July 11th, 2025.
So this was not expected, which was to get a full-blown month, day, and year. for a release date. I thought at most we'd get a year.
Yeah.
He's telling us the month and day as well. We've known he's been working on writing this for some time now. He just tweeted, you and I had a whole back and forth on Twitter the other day about like, because he tweeted he was reading Superman comic book, and I was like, what's he reading? What is it? And we figured it out. It was All-Star Superman, which I think was Grant Morrison, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Grant Morrison. It's a great run. I haven't read it in forever. I need to pick it up again and reread it. But yeah, this is the one that he's from Jump, when he took over, said like the first thing he's doing is this Superman movie, because while, you know, thoughts on the Henry Cavill thing aside, like we've been denied a lot of Superman since, you know, Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League. We've had no Superman. We've had cast, but we haven't had anything with him. So that the guy who's running this thing is saying like, no, like we need a good solid, because even Man of Steel, while I like it a lot and you like it, it was kind of a mixed bag as far as reception goes. So he's like, we can't have a functioning DC universe without a good Superman movie. And so he's willing to say, I'm going to handle this one myself. Like, because then that way, if it fails, it's only on him.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this?
The fact that he says the true beginning of the new DC universe, I'm not trying to read too into it, but I'm just like, I want to see what that means at this time. I'm guessing this is the first time you're going to see him recast a main character, is what he means by that. If this is the storyline he's going with, it completely and totally makes sense that you're going to go younger with the casting and not use Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of, if memory serves, not an origin story per se, but definitely a beginning Superman.
It's sort of like Superman's coming of age story almost.
Yeah. So you go younger. I think it makes sense. Again, I never had a problem with Cavill as Superman, but I think you definitely, I'm going to say he is definitely sweeping anything Snyder under the rug.
And I think as much of a Snyderverse fan as I am, you need to have that separation at this point. Like there needs to no longer be any question what's coming. Like, like appreciations to things like the Snyder cut and all that, line in the sand. We're moving forward from all of it. For me too, I'm looking at, as far as the phrasing of like true beginning of the DCU, I think that can mean a couple of different things. I think it's going to depend on when those other two projects come out. Maybe those other two projects are just the first ones he mentioned in this video, but they don't come out till after this movie, or they're like, or you treat it kind of like what Marvel does, where it's like all the TV shows and stuff are like supplemental reading material, and the movies are the main meat of what you're here for, which is kind of the impression I get. But we won't know more until we know more details. So, all right, see what's next.
Okay, the next thing is a big premiere HBO television series called Lanterns. This is a story of a couple of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, and we have a few other lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective, with a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops watching over Precinct Earth. In it, they discover a terrifying mystery that ties into our larger story of the DCU.
So he said the magic words, Matt. You know what those magic words are?
HBO Max show?
Oh no, he said space cops.
Oh, space cops, yes.
He said space cops. I've been saying that since we started doing this show. Space cops. I need space cops. It's True Detective with Green Lanterns. It's Law and Order with Green Lanterns. Yeah. Space cops. It's so easy. It's such a no-brainer with Green Lantern. Space cops.
It's the way you have to go. That's the way you should go. And I'm excited for this, in that Green Lantern has been shafted too many times.
Yeah.
He had a look, it's a decent movie. It's not great. I don't think it's crap.
It's not the worst. It's not the worst thing DC's ever put out.
And the casting is not the issue in that movie, in my opinion.
No.
But you had a fantastic CGI cartoon show.
Yeah, you did. Ooh,
and
yeah, you did.
Squandered the crap out of it.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And like, if you guys bring Razor in, to this Lantern show, Gunn, you're getting Christmas presents from me for the rest of my life.
You're going on the
I'm just
Christmas
saying,
list, buddy.
you're
You're getting a Christmas card every year.
I don't know if you know this, but they wrapped his storyline, continued his storyline in Young Justice.
Yeah, they did.
So not that no, I didn't like that season, but the fact that he was in it, when I found that out, I went and watched that episode.
It was a good
but
episode.
No, I think this is cool, and I like that we're not just, because to me, Disney with their Disney Plus shows has done these are characters we don't want to give a movie to.
Yeah, it's hard to sell a Moon Knight movie.
But that he is now something that could, and I don't want to say should, but could easily have its own movie franchise. No, we're using top tier characters as our shows as well. I think it's fantastic, because I mean that means they're going to be in movies, especially because he says whatever's going on in this show ties into the overarching story. So that means whoever they cast in these roles, they're going to be in Justice League or whatever other big movie comes out around this time and after.
Well, and the series are a good way to do things where you're like, with Green Lantern, you got to win some good faith back. Because like the Green Lantern movie was 12 years ago, 2011. Yeah, 2011, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a bit, but you still got to win. But I mean, like that movie was so poorly received. Like it's still a running joke in like Deadpool movies about like how much like Ryan Reynolds did a whole video with Taika Waititi, because Taika Waititi's in the Green Lantern movie. There's a whole video of them doing an interview where they're like, yeah, we've never worked together before, Free Guy. And they're like, well, yeah, you guys worked on Green Lantern. We have no idea what you're talking about. That never happened. What's Green Lantern? So I think you sent me that actually.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and my thing is, and even current Disney Plus, we haven't seen any character from any Marvel TV anything or streaming service anything go to the movies.
No, Ms. Marvel will be the first one this year, because she's going to be in the Marvels. She'll be the first one to make that leap from TV to movie.
Because you didn't have, and none of the Netflix guys, none of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people, none of what, Moon Knight, blah, 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 whatever. So yeah, I mean, you're right, Miss Marvel, I forgot about that. But I mean, my point more is that the fact that he's already laying it down that this show is going to be good, we're going to do this, and these guys are going to be in movies, I think is really exciting.
It is. Plus, something to think about too is, because we talked about this a little while back when DC was announcing what they're going to do with their comics in 2023. This is what they're doing with the Green Lantern comics. They're going to have 2 Green Lantern runs, one about Hal, one about John. So it almost makes me think, because you got to figure, if these are the stories that DC feels strong enough to go forward with comics, which are hard to sell right now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you take the same approach with your easier to sell shows and movies with the same thing? And also, as far as all the Green Lanterns go, everyone's 2 favorites are Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Kyle Rayner's fine, but everyone loves Hal and John. So
yeah, what's his name? Oh my gosh, his name escapes me. The redhead.
No,
Guy Gardner.
We don't talk about him.
Even
Hal and John don't want to talk about him, because in Young Justice, when his name comes up as a potential member of the Justice League, they both go, no.
No, the only reason to keep him around is so Batman can knock him out.
Exactly. The only time I've ever liked Guy Gardner has been in Brave and the Bold, just so Batman can one up him constantly.
Which comes out of a Justice League comic from the late 80s.
Yes, it does.
So, yeah.
All right.
Let's
get to this next thing.
Because this one's fucking weird.
Next is a big movie called The Authority. The Authority is a passion project of mine. It's based on the marvelous Wildstorm characters we are now bringing into the DCU, and will interact with all of our primary DCU characters. The Authority are a group of superheroes who think the world is broken and they want to fix it by any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes. We're doing a television.
Oh, hang on, because that's the next thing. But okay, I know absolutely jack shit about The Authority. Is this anything you can comment on? I got nothing.
The Authority is, so the Snyderverse?
Yeah.
If it was all the Authority characters, no one would be crying.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So they are like, just like, hey, we want to make sure bad guys cannot be bad anymore. And that means killing bad guys. And they don't wait for bad guys to do things. They go find the bad guys and go kill him and do this and over the top nonsense. So if you go back to the picture, I'll some of the characters I know, some of them I don't.
Okay, I don't know any of these. The guy in the front looks like he's pooping. So
do what?
The guy in the front looks like he's pooping.
The guy in the front is Midnighter. And the reason I'm excited about Midnighter is because Midnighter and Nightwing have this great frenemy relationship in the comics. So the fact that he's gonna be in there's so many things about this that's exciting to me. So I'm trying to be cool.
Please get excited because I got nothing.
Yeah. So Midnighter is kind of like Batman. If Batman's superpower was he could read people and counteract their abilities. So
like a Mazo?
More like Taskmaster.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So he's there's this one awesome scene where he finds Nightwing as Agent 42 or 41, whatever the crap he was called. 42. And they start fighting and he's like, oh, I know you. I can defeat you because I know you're Dick Grayson. I know when you were Batman. And he's defeating him and blocking him. I know when you were Batman and this is how you fought. And when you were Nightwing, you fought like this. And when you're Agent 41, you're I know all these
Agent
things.
37, I just Googled it.
Sorry, Agent 37. Yeah. And then Dick Grayson goes, yeah, but you never saw me be Robin. And gets acrobatic and defeats him.
Oh, that's smart.
But he's really cool in that way. And then the guy who is in the white and yellow is Apollo. And he's basically Superman. If Superman could also generate heat waves out of his body. And then the girl with the red flag, I think she's
the British flag.
The British flag. I'm sorry. I think she's actually from a different book. I don't recognize some of the other ones, but it's basically they were a very, very proactive superhero team going against the villains. And their biggest villain was an evil allegory for the Fantastic Four, if memory serves correctly.
Oh, that's funny.
And then the weirdest part about this, which I think I'm excited in the representation, but I don't know how you're going to handle it, is that Midnighter and Apollo are lovers. And the reason that happened is at some point they get shuffled off into one of the villains sends them to another dimension.
Right.
And the dimension does not have time or anything like that, but they exist there for 100 years and don't age.
Oh.
So because they're the only two people there for 100 years. So when they come back, they're completely different. They're together and they are devout love together forever.
It's funny you mentioned that because we just had episode 3 of The Last of Us this week. I don't know if you've watched The Last of Us at all.
No, not at all.
But this entire episode this week was about these two guys who basically meet during this zombie apocalypse. They're the only two people that either of them have seen in years, and they wind up just falling in love and growing old together because it's it's just us.
Yeah.
And it is this, I cried forever. It's the sweetest love story I've ever seen in my life. And it's so beautiful. So that's kind of what it's funny that you're mentioning that. It's I just saw that this week on a zombie show. This great love.
But it also kind of goes back to the Midnighter and Nightwing, right? Because when he's Agent 37 and his face is all messed up, Midnighter's I don't recognize the face, but I recognize that backside anywhere. That's Dick Grayson.
Look, Dick Grayson has a legendary ass, guys. It's legendary. Dick Grayson's superpower is how attractive he is. That is the only other episode of Teen Titans Go I've seen in my life, and we're going to never mention it again. But so I don't know. But again, this also goes to a point we made earlier. James Gunn loves his weird teams.
It's an interesting thing to do. And this is, in my opinion, most people are like you and have no clue who the Authority are.
Right.
So the fact that now you can give these people who are dying for a rated R superhero thing, characters who are in the comics that way. Yeah. You don't have to make Batman a murderer and Superman a murderer. You make these guys do all those things.
Right.
And it appeases that. It's a very cool storyline. The other thing to me that gets me excited, because we talked about him a couple episodes ago, is that this is a Wildstorm characters.
Oh,
So
we
this
did
could
talk about Wildstorm, didn't we?
so this could only mean you're going to be pulling in more stuff. So now do we get Wildcats? Do we get Grifter? Do we get Stormwatch? Do we get
Oh,
all those other characters? Mr. Majestic, which would be very interesting.
I didn't think about that.
So if he's touching one, he's touching all of them.
It's that means two things. That opens a lot of doors. Well, and also just in hearing him talk about it, this is a passion project for him. He is so excited to be working on this project. And I get excited when James Gunn's excited, because when James Gunn gets excited, good things happen, kids. That's how we get the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that just gives me, even knowing nothing about it, if James Gunn's excited to make this thing, I'm excited to see it. Let's see what's next, because I think I know what's coming up next, and we're gonna have some things to say.
Go ahead. Any means necessary. I think it's a very different look at superheroes. We're doing a television series called Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is a story of Paradise Island, usually known as Themyscira, which is the birthplace of Wonder Woman. It's almost like Game of Thrones with Westeros, but with all of the inhabitants of Paradise Island.
It's not what I thought was coming up next, but I'm glad this was next, because I'm super excited for this, because I am a huge Game of Thrones fan. And so the idea of that Game of Thrones style storytelling set in the world of the Amazons is super exciting to me, because it kind of just makes all the sense in the world. Plus, when we talked about our own ideas for, like, pitching a phase 1 of the DCU, I mentioned that in the Wonder Woman movie I wanted to see some of these ancient Amazon versus Atlantean battles, which is kind of what I think we're seeing here in this image, unless that's somebody else, but that's kind of what it looks like. This means we could potentially get that with this show. That's exciting to me. And one final point before I turn it over to Matt, this is where you could start to play with the idea of recasting Wonder Woman. If this turns into some kind of introduction into this version of the DCU's version of Wonder Woman, played by Alexandra Daddario, as she should be. Matt, thoughts on Paradise Lost live action TV show?
If you're going back history and not touching Wonder Woman, or ending the show with Wonder Woman showing up and or making it being made out of clay, whichever origin of Wonder Woman you want to go with, I think it could be interesting. If you get into the Gotham thing where, like, oh, it's us raising Wonder Woman, I'm less interested. Okay. Every time you do something like this, I'm more interested if you're doing something that isn't related to a character.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like Gotham, I think would have been cool if it was a police procedural with no Bruce Wayne at all.
Which is what we were pitched when the show initially came out.
Correct.
It's not what it turned into.
Correct. So that's where, like, I'm kind of like, I don't know about that. But if, pardon me, if that is what we're getting, is this cool, like you're saying, this ancient times, how the Amazonians pulled away from their oppressors and created this island, how they had to fight off gods, Atlanteans, and other people to keep this island their own. That sounds fascinating.
Well, especially considering this is chapter that they're calling this, and I love they're calling them chapters of the DCU, gods and monsters. So yeah, like, and again, just if you're a fan of just like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, that kind of thing, or even if you're a fan of Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings thing, telling that kind of epic, large scale fantasy adventure storytelling just in the land of the Amazons in DC, it's kind of like Space Cops with Green Lantern. It's kind of a no-brainer. Like, of course, like, why would you do anything else? It's so wrapped up in Greek and Roman mythology. It kind of just writes itself, really. And
I'm going to be really weird here. And it's called Gods and Monsters, right?
Yeah.
What did we just read?
Well, we're gonna get to that in a sec. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in a sec, and I'm gonna tell you'll know when we get to it. Let's see what's next here from James.
Okay, we'll get
the introduction of the DCU's Batman is The Brave and the Bold. The Brave and the Bold is the story of Batman and his actual son, Damian Wayne. This is based on Grant Morrison's great comic book run. Damian Wayne is my favorite Robin. He's a little assassin who Batman tries to get in line. And so this is the story of the two of them and the beginning of sort of the Bat family in the DCU.
Okay. So I got a lot to say here. Because this is the Batman show. Matt, I'm gonna let you go first though.
No, you go. I want to hear you talk.
Okay, look, guys, I fucking hate Damian Wayne. I hate Damian Wayne so much. I really, really, really hate Damian Wayne. Now, I also understand I'm in the minority with that. I know that there are a lot of people that really like Damian Wayne, James Gunn included. This does not make me lose any appreciation for James Gunn. He's allowed to like what he likes. That's fine. I was kind of hoping we weren't going to get a Batman solo film announcement with this thing. I was kind of hoping they would treat him like the Hulk they do with Marvel, where he's there, but he's kind of just a supporting character while Matt Reeves is doing his thing. However, like, this is a business. I understand Batman sells movie tickets. Batman puts butts in seats. From a business standpoint, it makes sense why you would want to do something with Batman. So therefore, it also makes sense to me why you would want to do something. If you're going to do it, make sure it is something so vastly different from what we're getting with Matt Reeves that there is no there is no confusing the two whatsoever. Because even however you feel about Batfleck, you could totally sell me on the idea that Batfleck is Robert Pattinson 20 years later. I could totally buy that from how they approach Batman. So the idea that we're going to get Robert Pattinson doing, grounded, thuggish Batman, emo grunge Batman, as it were, learning to be a hero over the course of several movies, as opposed to this Brave and the Bold Batman, which is obviously Batman from just this description. We don't know anything storyline, but from this description alone, Batman well enough into his career to have had a dalliance with Talia al Ghul to produce Damian Wayne as his Robin is an interesting sell. He drops the name Grant Morrison, which makes me go, damn it, I like Grant Morrison a lot, you son of a bitch. That's not fair. Maybe James Gunn will find a way to make me not hate Damian Wayne so much. That is entirely possible. I hate Damian Wayne. I'm trying not to let that pepper my thoughts on this too much, because again, I know I'm in the minority, and James Gunn's the guy that made me care about a talking tree. So I will await casting and trailers before I make final judgments on this. And of course, this is a Batman podcast. Anytime there's more Batman in the world, it's a good thing. Matt Hasso, your thoughts, please.
The big thing that comes to mind, I have a yay and a nay, I guess, kind of my thing. If we're going, quote unquote, comic as accurate as possible, and Damian Wayne is now Robin, we've had to have gone through other Robins.
At least
if he does that, which means we're starting Dick Grayson as Nightwing in this universe, which makes me happy. If that's what they do. If they do Damian is the first Robin, then I just have to take James Gunn off of my Christmas list. He's back off now.
You are no longer getting a Christmas card.
Yeah, you're back off. But the big thing for me is I like Superman and Batman being contemporaries. Mm-hmm. If this is the Batman you're introducing in your show, in your universe, he's mid to late 30s. Superman,
the youngest,
is in his early 20s. If you're doing Superman, All-Star Superman, I don't like that personally. Because like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, they're not contemporaries. I don't see them as being buddies. They
had about 10-15. Ben Affleck had about 10-15 years on Henry Cavill.
Yeah, and that's where, like, dude, Superman and Batman Public Enemies is my favorite DC Direct DVD of all time, because these best friends are doing it. I'm not saying best friends can't have that much of an age gap, including us. I mean, we have that age gap.
We're fairly separate, and we get along just fine.
I mean, it's true. It's true.
Now,
which one of us is Batman? Which one is Superman? Are we going to establish that right now?
I'm not Superman, just because I refuse to be Superman. because you know how I feel about Superman.
Oh, okay, so I'm Midnighter and you're Apollo. Is that what we're doing?
Sure. Also, by the way, Midnighter. I meant to say this earlier. Midnighter sounds like a character from The Boys. It really does. But
Dude, The
yeah,
Boys doesn't happen without the Authority. I'm just to say that.
You know what? That's from what you've told me. That's actually an excellent point, because everything you say about the Authority makes me think about The Boys. So
Midnighter flew an F-14 through a villain.
That's just
to
awesome.
kill him.
Let's put that. Come on, show me that in season 4 of The Boys, Amazon Prime, please. Because you've shown me everything else on that show. I think this is going to be one of those. I'm going to need to, this is going to be the one that's going to divide a lot of people. And I think a lot of it's going to be, in, like you said, how they handle Damian Wayne's Robin. Is this the first Robin or is this the 4th Robin?
Yeah.
Because I think for me, in terms, now again, James Gunn, and I'm going to say this several times throughout this video, James Gunn is handling the DCU story first. And I'm never against that. As long as what you're doing is there to service your story at large, you fine. But I'll be curious to see it. But we also know nothing about what this grander story is going to be, because nothing's happened yet. So this is going to be one of those. Again, more Batman's always good for me. I'm going to reserve my judgment until we start hearing more casting and knowing more about what the story is, and see a trailer. But I'm also still kind of mixed on, I didn't necessarily want there to be a Batman announcement in this, but I also understand Batman puts butts in seats.
Yeah, you have to. As much as we would like them to gleam past it, you have to have Batman.
Yeah. It makes too much sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's the only other. I think I already said it. The idea that hopefully Nightwing is already Nightwing, that Dick Grayson's Nightwing, I think sounds exciting. So we can skip all that.
Yeah. Because that solves that problem we brought up when we did our Dick Grayson episode of well, now cool. We've skipped all the hard stuff, because the hard part of Nightwing is getting to Nightwing. There's a lot of ground to cover. Well, now we can just skip all that and just say, hey, all that stuff happened. Let's just move on. I don't need to see. I'm already getting that early days of Batman coming into his own with Matt Reeves. If I want to see other characters, you've got to be willing to just skip all that. And at this point, we've had so many years with Batman and Robin. We all get it. We get it. It's fine.
Yeah. And the last thing I was going to say is, it also makes me curious, if you're keeping Batman that age, is Ben Affleck coming back? Are we getting a new Batman, or is he staying? Because
that's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. Are we keeping Ben Affleck? That is, I hadn't considered that. That is an excellent, excellent point. Especially because the last thing he says in this segment is the building out the Bat family.
Yeah.
Which makes me think more, we're definitely getting Nightwing. Because there's no way you start building the Bat family with Damian.
Yeah.
And that also makes me think, are they going to find a way to bring back Leslie Grace's Batgirl?
Doubt it.
Anything's possible. Let's move on to the next part of the video.
Go.
Next up is a TV series called Booster Gold. Booster Gold is one of comics' really popular cult heroes. He is a fascinating guy. He's a loser from the future who uses future technology to come back to present day and become a superhero so that people will love him.
They've been talking about doing a Booster Gold thing for so long. They've been trying to make Booster Gold happen for years. And the concept of Booster Gold is so fascinating. It's and it is a vessel on which you can provide copious amounts of commentary on modern day capitalism and TikTok culture, social media influencer culture, because you cannot tell me Booster Gold would not be a fucking TikTok star in modern day, 1000%. Because I know I know in the last season of Legends of Tomorrow, Donald Faison was there playing him, which sounds great on paper, honestly. Turk from
Yeah, I know who it is. I just didn't know that was happening. I have to see that.
I saw a clip from it on YouTube and I was like, damn it, that works really well. Shame the show's getting canceled. But at one point they were talking about at one point there was a script being thrown around for a Booster Gold Blue Beetle movie that was going to be Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk, which sounds amazing on paper. But then again, Nathan Fillion's been has been allegedly cast as every DC character known to mankind at some point. So it's about time we got something with Booster Gold though, because like you can have kind of like with Deadpool, you can have fun with Booster Gold.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you just need something fun.
No, he's a fun character. I think this is getting into what you're saying, that kind of social media thing. The casting is going to be of the utmost importance. But I think this is a good thing. And again, we're not just rehashing Flash, Aquaman, and again, like he said that he's not announcing everything, but I'm on board having Booster Gold come in here and play, because hopefully, well, no, there won't be a Blue Beetle, not the original, not Ted Kord, because it's the newer Blue Beetle. But who knows? Maybe we'll see.
We don't know. We don't know what's happening in the Blue Beetle movie. So who's to say? But Booster Gold, if you haven't seen the Justice League Unlimited episode of Booster Gold doing crowd control, it is you have got to watch. That episode is so good. It's so funny and so good. And every time Booster Gold shows up on Batman Brave and the Bold, it's fantastic.
Correct.
All right, let's see what's next.
It is basically the superhero story of imposter syndrome on an HBO Max series.
I love that. He's like, it's the superhero version of imposter syndrome. It's like, yeah, no, that is 100% who Booster Gold is.
One of my favorite comic book series from last year was Tom King's run on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. And so we're going to turn that into a big science fiction epic film. Now, Superman is a guy who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents, whereas Supergirl in this story, she is a character who was raised on a chunk of Krypton. She watched everybody around her perish in some terrible way. So she's a much more jaded character. So that's the thing we brought up earlier about something we've been talking about with the whole gods and monsters thing. Doing this story off of a Tom King run of Supergirl. We were, for those who are not aware, because we haven't really talked about it on the show very much, Tom King wrote a run of Mr. Miracle that Matt introduced me to, that we both adore. We're gonna review it at one point here when stuff stops happening on the show. Tom King is an amazing writer, and I really want to go find this run of Supergirl to read it, because that concept of her being raised isolated on this floating chunk of Krypton, and how that can change who she is compared to Superman, is such an interesting idea to me. Because they've been trying to do Supergirl. I mean, we know she's getting introduced in the Flash, so if we're resetting everything with the Flash, there's just, man, like, there's a lot you can do with this. That sounds so interesting to me. How are you feeling about that?
I have no feelings about it. Not in a bad way, but like, Supergirl's one of those characters, like, they've rebooted her and changed her so many times in the comics. I don't even know what her origin is anymore. But this is one of those, like, the more different you make her from Superman, the more interesting she's going to be.
Yes.
So I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I didn't mind the Supergirl show, the first season. The second season, I don't know, was stupid as crap.
Yeah.
For multiple different reasons, and I just kind of stepped away from it.
Yeah. Supergirl was one of those shows. Like, the problem with the show was never Melissa Benoist. I thought the casting for Supergirl was fine. The show itself was just kind of a hot mess, and they kept trying to do Superman stories with Supergirl or Batman stories with Supergirl, but then they introduced Superman into the show, so it made things messier than it needed to be. And then there was the whole thing where they moved over to CW and yada 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 yada. But I agree with you 100% where you say the more different from Superman you make her, the more interesting it becomes, because too often she's just written as young teenage female Superman.
Yeah.
And that's boring to me. Give me a character that has some more depth, that has a different, it has more to her than just being other Superman. So but again, the fact that he specifically name drops Tom King goes back to what we were mentioning earlier with the fact that this is called Gods and Monsters. We've been speculating off, just on the phone and over Twitter and all that. Could we finally see an attempt at new gods?
Yeah.
The name Gods and Monsters, I mean, and they were gonna do a new gods thing with Ava DuVernay at one point, but then Wrinkle in Time came out and it wasn't good. So
well, because you got a show in the past with the Amazonians.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Green Lantern, and whatever thing is going on is going to affect everything. So Darkseid is. That's all I'm saying. Darkseid is.
And so that's, I'm gonna go find the Supergirl run that Tom King did at some point and give that a read. So it's like, well, and then speaking of Gods and Monsters, let's get into this last announcement that's staring me in the face right now, that when he said it earlier, I squealed audibly.
That brings me to Swamp Thing, the last thing we're going to talk about, a very dark horror story in the origins of the monster who is Swamp Thing. And although it's totally outside of the rest of the DCU, it will still feed into the rest of the stories. Anyway, those are the stories.
So that's the long and short. That's all the announcement, all the new stuff. So okay, sure. When that image pops up of Swamp Thing, and I'm sitting here in my house and I'm watching that, I screamed so loud because I love Swamp Thing. And I thought that one season of live action show that we got on DC Universe was quite good. And they got boned hard by something as simple as a financial accounting error. Because basically the time they were making the show and they were counting on, because it was when all these places were doing these huge like tax credits for film and TV productions in their states, and then basically their accountant did something wrong and they lost a shitload of money on the show, and it never got made into a season 2, which is a bummer because that first season is spectacular.
And it was canceled like after the first episode aired. It was really weird.
It was dead on arrival. Basically, they were like, "This is coming out, but we have no money to make a season 2 because we fucked up our budget," which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Especially when it's like, it was so good, but that was also about the time that DC Universe folded on itself too. So you can still, they incorporated him into the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing on CW, and it's on HBO Max. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's fantastic. I love Swamp Thing so very much, and considering this is the Gods and Monsters chapter, and when you consider that what the introduction of Swamp Thing means to other things you can introduce, like Constantine, because that's where Constantine originates from, is Swamp Thing comics. And if we're using the Flash to reset and recast things, that means we could potentially get Matt Ryan back as Constantine in the DCU. I will probably never leave my house because that's just the greatest thing I could ever hear in my life. But also just the idea that James Gunn, the king of just wacky, crazy character storylines, is like, we're going to take another hard, dark attempt at Swamp Thing. Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm 1,000% here for it. I could wax poetic about this forever. Matt, how do you feel?
I mean, if you want to get into the whole Constant thing, what if he cherry picks what he wants and it's Keanu Reeves?
I'm fine with that too. I love the Keanu Reeves, and we know they're working on a sequel. Like, we know that's like a thing. So I'm cool with that too. But if we get more Constantine out of it, like, it's just the door. Like, I'm excited enough just about Swamp Thing, and then there's the doors that Swamp Thing opens.
Yeah. No, I think again, like you're saying, the deeper we get into random stuff, the deeper we get into other random stuff.
Yeah.
You bring in the Authority, that means we probably get Planetary. You bring in Swamp Thing, we're probably getting Constantine. You bring in Damian Wayne as Robin, Nightwing has to be around the corner. So I think that the I don't think this is the good and bad of this whole thing.
Yeah.
He has been so specific on things, but also opened the door that there are other things that now we get to speculate for the next 3 years of what other stuff is around the corner and happening.
That's fine. We got podcast episodes to make.
That is correct. But no, I think I'm personally, as a kid, I love that original Swamp Thing movie.
Yeah.
And then rewatched it for Fanboy Junction. It was like, dude, the girl is fully capable and doing cool stuff. Yeah, the costume's dated, but like it's still a good movie. Like
it's like the most quintessential 80s comic book movie ever made. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I dare you. If you guys haven't seen the original Swamp Thing, go watch it. It is from the 80s, so there's some of the effects that aren't on point.
Yeah.
But dude, a Wolfman and Swamp Thing sword fighting in the swamp, it doesn't get better than that.
No, God, that's stuff I dream about on a good night.
Like, so yeah.
The fact and like the fact that the ends with that Swamp Thing announcement is like that's such a what a final foot to put down. Like, oh, by the way, guys, we're given because I'm not the only one. A lot of people were really miffed about the Swamp Thing show getting axed. And did you ever watch it?
No.
Oh, it's very good. It's very, very good.
I think it was one of those things of like, I'm not into horror.
It's not as horror as you might think. It's just
okay.
It's just a dark show. Like it's serious.
Yeah.
It's not as horror-y as because like the 80s movie is an 80s schlocky horror movie. Like at the end of the day, it's not as much a horror movie yet. It's just it's a really cool because there's a lot of really good like DC Easter eggs in that show. Like Madame Xanadu's a character. The Blue Devil's a character. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Jason Woodrow's a character, which is it's good DC content. But it got robbed, and so I'm glad that he's saying like, no, we're like Swamp Thing is just such a cool badass character. Like he's one of the few characters that can take on Superman. So it's such a like when Injustice happened. My big question is, well, where's Swamp Thing in all this? Because Swamp Thing would kind of break all of this. Well, thankfully, year 3 explains where Swamp Thing went. He was working with Superman, which is like, well, yeah, I would want if I was Superman, I'd want Swamp Thing to work with me too, because he could kill me. So there's so much to break apart in this whole thing. I think we've done a pretty good job of it. But it's also important to remember this is the tip of the iceberg. This is not everything. More is going to come. This is just what we have pen to paper for right now.
Yeah, because as he gets, I think because by his words, the DC universe doesn't quote unquote start. The Gunverse doesn't start until Superman is released, which is not till 2025.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too also has to do with, so when Disney took over Fox, people were wondering when they're going to start folding the X-Men into the MCU. Well, then it came out last year is they really can't, because those actors' contracts are such that they cannot recast those characters until 2025.
Yeah.
So if they're going to use X-Men characters, it has to still be the actors that have already been cast. That's why like they're getting Hugh Jackman back one more time, because they can. So why wouldn't you? So that's why we won't see, like, they're starting to plant seeds of mutants and X-Men in the MCU. We're not going to see any actual X-Men characters that we've already seen in film until after those contracts expire, which makes me think there's probably some more bullshit like that tied up in some of these announcements of like, we can't start rolling certain things out or even like putting things on paper until certain contracts expire.
Yeah.
So Superman not coming out till 2025. He's got to write it, and then they got to cast it, and then they got to shoot it, and then they got to produce it. So that's going to take several years. But also, I don't know what's in Henry Cavill's contract. Maybe they're not allowed to make another Superman until a certain year. So
maybe Henry Cavill's going to be Apollo. We don't know.
Who the hell knows? Anything can happen once the Flash comes out. And that's the other thing to consider too, is we still got 4 more movies to come out, and one of them's the reset button. And he says in the video that Aquaman 2 is going to be the thing that leads into what's going to be the first chapter starting with Superman. So there's probably certain things they can't say until these 2 movies come out without spoiling these movies.
Well, because you got to remember, we've got an entire year of no films, according to this.
Yeah, that's very true.
2024 has 2 series coming out, but no movies.
Are the series coming out? Did he say the series are coming out in 24?
Well, he talks about the cartoon after Aquaman. So I'm assuming that cartoon is going to be early 2024. Waller's going to be mid 2024. And then we have the Superman movie. So
it's July of 2025. Yeah, that's a good point.
So we have an entire all of 2024 and part of 2025 that up to this point has 0 movies announced. And we both know that's not a thing.
Yeah. Because again, odds are we won't see another big announcement like this probably till after year. Well, I was going to say probably till after Flash comes out.
If it's possible,
if Flash is our reset, then once the reset happens, give it like a month after Flash comes out, because Flash comes out what, June?
Yeah, and when's DC Fandom? August?
They haven't announced one. They have not announced one for this year.
When was it 2 years ago? It was in August.
It was October.
Was it October? So I'm guessing they'll do Fandom again this year because they have actually something to talk about.
That's true.
And DC Fandom, he'll say what movies are coming out. Because there's, like I said, there's no way.
Yeah.
You're going from, when does Aquaman come out? November,
December, something like that.
You're not going from November of 2023 to June of 2025 without a DC movie.
Yeah.
You're just not. There's no freaking way.
That's true. That's a good point.
Now I don't know what movie.
Well, because also we haven't taken into account, we don't know when the Joker sequel comes out.
That's not a DC movie.
Well, it is. It's a DC. It's not a DCU movie, but it's a DC property. That's kind of the benefit of some of those Elseworlds stuff. Is like if we don't have something in the main story coming out, at a supplement. So because we know the Batman 2 is not coming out until at least 25.
Well, even then, that's one movie.
I know what I'm saying. Is like that's the most we have. Unless Teen Titans Go does another movie,
which would be awesome.
Shut up.
You haven't seen the movie. You don't know.
No, I don't. I never will. But so there's case in point, there's going to be a lot more to come out. We didn't have a fandom this past year because everything was in limbo. We didn't know what the hell was going on. So, and honestly, fandom was basically just their way of marketing the Batman more than anything else.
Yes.
So I think it'll at least be, if Flash comes out in June, July, I think it's June. Whenever Flash comes out, a month later, we'll probably get some more announcements, or at least the announcements of DC Fandom coming. So that'll be but it's going to be at least till after the Flash comes out, because if that's your reset point, anything more you announce is probably just going to be spoilers for the Flash.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts on what we've got so far from James Gunn. Got a lot today, got a lot of information today, none of which I think we were expecting at all. And it's an exciting time to be a DC fan, because like we have a plan, we have things to look forward to, and it's all different stuff we haven't seen before. So it's something to get excited about.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's just like, there's a lot of good coming here, whether it's the randomness of the characters and things he's talking about coming out, that we're going to be concise going forward, or just that, hey, James Gunn, cool, good job, let's go.
More weird comic book teams, because that's what you're good at. Yeah. I can't wait to see what's next. We're going to be talking about this ad nauseum for the next year as more things come out, and we talk about other things. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to us break down this announcement. Link to the full announcement video on his Twitter will be in the description, as well as time codes for everything if you want to go back and listen to a certain part. And we'll see you guys again next time. Follow us on Twitter at We Are the Batman. You can send us any of your comments or thoughts or whatever on our website, podpage.com/wearethebatman. Matt, where else can they find us online to talk to us?
www.facebook.com/group/fanboy junction with a K.
And you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mike Shea.
And you get me on Twitter at Mr. J Ninja.
We'll see you guys again here next time for another episode of We Are the Batman. Same bat time, same bat podcast channel.
Bye-bye.